Well, hello there. My name is Blade, and today I'll be giving you 10 underrated horror recommendations. Before I get into the 10 movies, I want to start off by saying I don't necessarily like the term underrated, but I feel like it's just the best word to use, to kind of like generalize. You're not gonna click on a video where the title is horror movies that you may have never heard of, or I mean, you can, but I just think it's a little bit more concise. But these are all going to be movies that are either underrated in the sense that maybe people we definitely like heard about them when they came out, or people definitely do talk about them, but they just don't get as much attention, or maybe like another movie released around the same time, so it kind of overlooked this, like it caused this one to get overlooked, or movies that just don't get talked about as much, and just things that I personally like that I would like to see get more attention. Additionally, I will say there are a few in here that aren't like straight up horror, but I still think they're horror enough to be included, but we'll get into that as I go down the list. First up, we have Aniara, which is a 2019 film described as the following. A spaceship carries settlers to Mars after there's an apocalypse on Earth. When it strays off course, the consumption based passengers are prompted to consider their place in the universe. So, this movie is perfect for anybody who is into, first of all, space and like sci fi, but also existential dread. This is definitely something that's going to get you not only thinking about what you would do in this situation, but also just have a lot of questions about like our place in the universe and like what it means to be human and all those types of things. I would describe this film as very anxiety inducing, a little claustrophobic, because we are on this spacecraft and it's a large spacecraft, but at the same time the passengers are they are stuck to the confines of this spacecraft, so there is a sense of claustrophobia because they can't escape. They're just doomed to this fate. So I'll touch a little bit upon the plot. I think that the premise that I read off gives you a good idea, but essentially, if I remember correctly, something happens. I don't remember if they're hit by an asteroid or if there's an asteroid coming at them, but I think they are hit by one, and it literally sends them off course by like this much. But since they're traveling through space, that little is enough to where they are like really, really off course. And without too many spoilers, we kind of discover just how much they are, for lack of a better word, fucked because of that. So yeah, if you're into existential dread, if you're into sci-fi, and I also think if you just have a little touch of, a want for slightly nihilistic films, this is definitely for you. It is available on Hulu and Tubi at the time of this video coming out. I will warn you though, if you're not the type to want to read subtitles, this film is Swedish, so just know that. But I really highly recommend this movie. Just read the subtitles, okay? Next up, we have Cube from 1998, and the premise is as follows. Without remembering how they got there, several strangers awaken in a prison of cubic cells, some of them booby-trapped. The prisoners must use their combined skills if they are to escape. Now, this film is probably one of those films I think you've probably heard of. It's not like a super unheard of movie, and honestly, in recent years, I've been hearing it a lot as a reference for a lot of filmmakers, but I still feel like it doesn't get as much attention. Like I think more people should see this film, because I'm pretty sure when it came out, it was kind of like a sleeper hit. It was more of an indie, release, but this film I think is for film lovers and horror people who enjoy. I think if you're someone who likes the Saw movies, the earlier Saw movies, you'd be into this. There's some slight Death Games vibes. It is a little bit psychological. I wouldn't necessarily. It's not psychological in the sense of where you're like second guessing reality, but it's psychological in the sense that these people, you know, it's one of those things where like this situation is forcing people to do things they thought that they would never do and like have to think in really creative ways. So if you're into that kind of like psychological, I wouldn't say dread, but just almost like character study kind of thing, you know, like what will people do in these survival situations? As I mentioned, it is kind of, I guess it's a cult classic. It's a reference for a lot of things. The first time I ever heard about it was actually watching the original Resident Evil movie. I was listening to the director and like cast commentary, and that hallway scene in the Resident Evil movie was really inspired by Cube. So if that sounds like your jam, it is available on Tubi. Next up, we have Daniel Isn't Real from 2019, and the premise is as follows. Troubled Luke suffers from a violent family trauma and resurrects his childhood imaginary friend to help him cope. Charismatic and full of energy, Daniel helps Luke to achieve his dreams before pushing him into a desperate fight for his own soul. So, this is another psychological vibe, but unlike Cube, this is more of the like questioning reality and, you know, like what's really going on, like how much of this is real, how much is it in the head. It's a really fun ride, and it definitely, I think it honestly kind of makes you a little bit uncomfortable too, but not in like a grotesque way. Just, there's just this, I think, sense of like questioning yourself, and it is a little bit nihilistic, but not in the same way that maybe some other films are, where you just like leave it feeling like what is life and what is my purpose and we're all doomed. It's not that type of nihilism, but there's a touch of nihilism. This is also a very, if you're somebody who really enjoys movies that are like colorful and like vibrant and really almost like ethereal, and so like if you're into like Mandy per se, something like that, or like Beyond the Black Rainbow, this will definitely be for you visually. It does star, has a couple people we're familiar with. It has Patrick Schwarzenegger and Sasha Lane, but also the main characters played by Miles Robbins of, you know, the Quarry fame. Also, he was also in Blockers, you know. So if you enjoy that beautiful, beautiful man, Miles Robbins. Hi, Miles Robbins.
Hey, give me your number. I want to try it out.
Why?
So that I can ask you out on a date.
Smooth.
I'm I'm available if you need me. Anyway, um, if you if that sounds like it's up your alley, then it is available to watch on Stars. It's probably available through other things that come with the Stars subscription, but Stars is the only thing that I could confirm it was like actually available on. But I'm sure if you have like Amazon or, you know, Peacock or something, it should also be available through that. But, you know, the streaming hell that we live in. Next up, we have Deadbeat at Dawn from 1988. The premise is as follows. When a gang leader retires, the leader of a rival gang arranges the murder of his girlfriend and merges the two formerly opposing gangs. The former gang leader wreaks havoc on the newly unified group as he seeks revenge. Now, this is one that isn't like straight up like a horror movie, but I feel like it's hard to not classify it in the horror genre because there is some paranormal stuff going on. There is some kind of like surreal aspects to it, and more importantly, it is extremely brutal. This is definitely for people who like intense, I don't want to call it violence, but I guess violence, like intense, like really like raw, real feeling fight sequences and like, and I guess death sequences. It's very, you know, it's from 1998, so there's a little bit of like cheesiness to it, cause just with practical effects at the time, but it's still very like, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. But it was directed and stars Jim. It's directed by and stars Jim Van. I'm not sure if it's Beber or Bieber, but if that name sounds familiar, you know what you're getting into. So, I would recommend this movie to anybody who likes a little bit of like a love story, but also likes a lot of, you know, violence. It's a violent movie. Like it's a really like holy shit kind of like violent movie, but it's just kind of fun. Even though it's a lot, it is fun. Also, I'm not gonna act like the main character isn't a little bit hot. So if that is your jam, it is available on Tubi. Next up, we have a recent release, which is 2024's Mads, with the premise being a teenager stops to see his dealer to test a new drug before heading off for a night of partying. On the way home, he picks up an injured woman, and the night takes a surreal turn. So, this film was actually one of the films that I included in my Blades Best in Show little mock award show thing I do, where I talk about my favorite films and all the different categories that I enjoyed from that previous year. And this movie, the main draw of this movie, like, don't get me wrong, it's a compelling story on its own. It's really fun. It's really intense. But the main thing that I think will get most people to watch this movie and why it should be celebrated is this movie is done in one shot. The whole movie is one complete shot from start to finish. No cuts. The whole thing is like choreographed, like done in one big block. So I don't want to say too much because it is one of those movies I think you should just go in and experience. But to, I guess, give it some comparison if you're into things like Climax or I don't know, like 28 Days, Months Later, maybe even a touch of like World War Z. I don't know if those are good comparisons, but I think this is definitely a movie that's more of an experience. So if that sounds like something that you'd be into, it is available through Shudder. All right, next up we have No One Will Save You from 2023 with the premise. Bryn finds solace within the walls of the home she grew up in until she's awakened one night by strange noises and unearthly intruders. So, this is an alien movie, one of the few bigger release, I guess you could say, alien movies we've gotten in a while that's not, like a Predator or an Alien franchise movie. This movie is a really interesting watch because this movie has little to no dialogue, but I actually think that's what makes it so interesting and compelling. You really get that anxiety feeling. It makes you think a lot about like what's going on. You're like, oh my god, like should she go this way? Should she go that way? Like you really feel grounded in the story because also like in this situation, where you're being pursued by aliens, you would be quiet. You wouldn't want to be making a whole bunch of noise. So do not let the lack of dialogue deter you from this movie. But honestly, you don't even notice it. Like I didn't even realize that there was like no dialogue until I watched the Deadbeat podcast where they talked about it, and they're like, she never talks. I was like, oh my god, she doesn't really talk in this movie. Beyond it being an alien movie, though, there is some like family like lore stuff going on with the main character. So I would say, obviously, if you're into aliens and like that type of horror and you don't mind the lack of dialogue, I would check this out. It stars Caitlin Dever, who, if you're not sure who that is, she's currently playing Abby on the new season of The Last of Us, and it is available through Hulu. Next up, we have Red Rooms from 2023 with the premise Kelly Ann is obsessed with a high-profile case of a serial killer. Now, you'll notice that was a very brief description. There is a longer description available, but I opted to only include the first sentence because I think this is a movie that is best experienced if you just hit play and go along for the ride. I just recently did a film essay video on this film on my channel. It is probably the time of posting this, not my last one, but the one before that, where I really went into the like what I really think about this movie makes it so compelling, which without giving anything away, I think what makes this film so good is that the answer is in your face the whole time. You know, it's a film where, you know, it's a puzzle and you're trying to like, kind of like figure out like what's really going on here, like what is going on with this main character, like is she a reliable narrator, like what's her, like we don't really know anything about her, so you're trying to figure out like why is she interested in this case of this serial killer, like she doesn't seemingly have any connection to it, but the answer is in your face the whole entire time in a way that you just really don't expect, and the ending is just like you just sit there like it's one of those where you're just like gagged, like it's crazy. Like I won't lie to you, it is a movie where at first you're not gonna want to stick with it because it just seems like slow, but there's something about it, like it just keeps you in, and once you get to like the meat of what's going on, it is just so I would recommend this movie to anybody who likes anything to do a little bit with like true crime, who also loves like a slow burn, anybody who loves like movies where you just can't, like you're just like sitting there trying to decode it and you can't quite figure it out. And honestly, I would recommend anybody who really appreciates the horror genre that you check this out. It is mostly in French. It's a Canadian film, but I mean, come on, just read the subtitles. Subtitles are no big deal. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you, it is available on Shudder. And then also, if you enjoy the movie, go ahead and take a hop and a skip and a jump on over to my YouTube channel and then watch the film essay that I did on it as well, because you'd be really cool for that. I think you should do that. Next up, we have Triangle from 2009, and the premise is as follows. Yacht passengers encounter mysterious weather conditions that force them to jump onto another ship only to have the odd havoc increase. So this is a hidden gem, if you ask me. It's like a movie I really don't see discussed about ever. I heard about this movie through Possessed by Horror, and let me tell y'all something. If you're not subscribed to Possessed by Horror, go subscribe to her channel right now. Any movie I have ever watched at her recommendation has always been so good. Like they're always 5-star movies in my book. So I discovered this movie through her and I was not disappointed. This is another one like Red Rooms that I mentioned where you need to just go in and watch it. Like don't look up anything. Like just let it, just experience it. It's another kind of like what is going on kind of movie, like what's happening here. And the ending is just like, first of all, you do not see it coming, and it's just so like jaw dropping. I recommend this movie to anybody. Well, really anybody. I think anybody, like this is a ride, but similar to Red Rooms, or not Red Rooms. I just lost my whole train of thought. Anyway, I would recommend this movie to anybody who is into psychological horror and is also into like surrealistic stuff, and anybody who's like into movies that really take you on a ride where you just don't know what the hell is going on. So if that sounds like your jam, this movie is currently available through Peacock. Second to last, we have Watcher from 2022, which is about, as a serial killer stalks the city, a young actress who just moved to town with her boyfriend notices a mysterious stranger watching her from across the street. This is a movie that stars Micah Monroe, and it doesn't say so in the little description, but when she moves to a new city with her boyfriend, it's not just moving to a new city. She moves to a completely new country where he is from, which is Romania. So I think the fun element in this movie is there is obviously this aspect, as I described, like there's this serial killer going around and there's this mysterious neighbor who's like watching her, and then obviously it doesn't take long for you to put the two and two together that she's like fearful that it's the serial killer, but there is this added element of she is in a new country, she doesn't speak the language, at least not fluently, so it really takes that kind of like subgenre in horror of like women being like gaslit and no one believing them, but like ups the ante because she doesn't know the language and doesn't really know the culture. So it's like people not listening to her as like a hysterical woman, but also like this hysterical like foreigner woman who just like doesn't understand like the customs of like what's going on. But you know, obviously we as the audience know like there's more that meets the eye. But I think part of the fun in this movie is we're not completely sure if, like, is she just overthinking it or is there actually something going on. So if that sounds like your jam and you love Micah Monroe, this movie is available through Netflix and also Tubi. Last but certainly not least, we have You're Next from 2013 with the following premise. When the Davidson family comes under attack during their wedding anniversary getaway, the gang of mysterious killers soon learns that one of the victims harbors a secret talent for fighting back. Now, this movie is one that's definitely not like, I would say, like super niche. And you might wonder why I would include it in this type of video because it's not like an unheard of movie. I just think it doesn't get talked about as much, and it's one that like a lot of horror fans would enjoy. Honestly, most horror fans probably know of, but I think it should still be opened up to the wider audience. Now, for some reason, for a long time, I thought Ty West directed this movie. That is not the case. He's just in the movie, and I think he did help with some of the production, but I guess you could say it's a Ty West involved film. Ty West is, of course, the director of the X trilogy. But so this movie is a fun ride. I recommend it for anybody who's into stuff like The Hunt or especially Ready or Not. It's very not the same necessarily like campy vibes of Ready or Not, but it's very like somebody being pursued and they're fighting back. So if you love a strong female character who's getting shit done and like outsmarting the people coming after her, would definitely recommend this movie. It's honestly one of my horror favorites of the 2010s. It's a really really fun ride, and it's honestly it's like not as predictable as it seems. Like you kind of know what's going on, but it's still like a compelling answer once you start to put the little puzzle pieces together. So if that sounds interesting to you, this film is available on Peacock. So those are my underrated horror recommendations. Let me know if you've seen any of these movies, how you felt about them, if you're interested in them, and also let me know, because this is something I haven't really done before, if you'd be interested in me doing more like recommendation videos like this, because I definitely had to compile this list down. I could do another one, about specifically like found footage or like different genres even, because I mainly focus on horror, but I do like to throw in other things every now and again because I'm just an overall film lover. So let me know if this is the type of video you'd like to see from me again. But in the meantime, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.